Old man, eat alone. Those 4 words destroyed 40 years of sacrifice in front of a room full of Christmas Eve diners. My own son, Jason, blocking me from sitting at our family table. My daughter, Caroline, adding fuel. We can't be seen with someone who's mentally unstable. The entire restaurant fell silent. Customers stared. Staff didn't know where to look. My family relocated to a different table, abandoning me like I was toxic. 40 years, I'd given them everything. I'm Edward Bennett. Built Bennett's kitchen restaurant chain from a single location to 8 thriving businesses. Worked 16-hour days so they could have college educations and executive positions. But sitting alone that Christmas Eve, watching them celebrate my humiliation, I understood the truth. Some children don't deserve what their parents sacrifice, and the phone call I made that night proved it. But before I tell you exactly what happened, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. And if you've ever felt unappreciated by family, hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. The story starts 35 years ago. Helen Bennett, my wife, dying of cancer at 42. Our children, Jason and Caroline, barely teenagers. Her final words still echo in my mind. Promise me they'll have everything we never did. I promised. God help me, I promised. Started with nothing but calloused hands and determination. Working 3 jobs, dishwasher at Murphy's Diner, night security at the mall, weekend construction crew. Every dollar saved. Every sacrifice measured against Helen's dying wish. Sleep was luxury I couldn't afford. Food was fuel, nothing more. The original Bennett's Kitchen was a failing sandwich shop downtown. The owner wanted out fast. I scraped together $18,000, everything Helen and I had saved, plus loans from anyone who'd listen. 16-hour days became normal. My hands bled from endless prep work. My back ached from lifting supply boxes. But I kept going. Within 5 years, we had 3 locations. Within 10, we were the most successful family restaurant chain in the county. Jason and Caroline went to private schools. College was fully paid. They graduated debt-free while I still worked Christmas mornings, prepping for the holiday rush. I kept that promise, too well. I thought building them an empire would teach them gratitude. Instead, I created entitled monsters who saw my success as their birthright. But I didn't realize that yet. By 2010, Bennett's Kitchen was 8 locations strong. Revenue hit $2.6 million annually. I'd built something Helen would be proud of, a legacy for our children. Jason joined as director of operations after college. 6-figure salary, company car, expense account. Caroline became financial coordinator with similar benefits. They lived like royalty while I maintained the foundation. Every morning at 5 a.m., I walked the locations. Quality control, staff morale, customer satisfaction, details that built our reputation. The children saw leadership differently. Late arrivals became normal for them. 3-hour lunches with friends while I handled crises. They'd argue with my decisions in staff meetings, then smile when employees looked uncomfortable. "Dad's stuck in the past" became their favorite phrase. I ignored the warning signs. Love makes you blind, especially parental love. Christmas bonuses for them reached $20,000 each. I paid their mortgages when they overextended. Ashley and Trevor, their spouses, treated me like a personal ATM. Emergency car repairs, unexpected medical bills, vacation deposits, always borrowing money they never repaid. I thought I was being generous, but generosity without boundaries creates entitlement. And entitled people eventually bite the hand that feeds them. I just didn't expect them to do it so publicly, so viciously, on Christmas Eve of all nights. The empire I built would soon teach them its most expensive lesson. The disrespect started small. Eye rolls during business meetings, dismissive comments about my outdated methods. Jason would interrupt me mid-sentence when I spoke to employees. Caroline made jokes about my memory in front of customers. Dad's slowing down became their standard explanation for any disagreement with my decisions. They'd exchange meaningful looks when I insisted on traditional recipes. They'd whisper together after I left the room, falling silent when I returned. Ashley started suggesting I take more time off. Trevor recommended books about graceful retirement. The grandchildren, Emma and Tyler, began acting distant during family dinners. Coach behavior, I realize now. The most telling incident happened during my 67th birthday last year. They forgot completely. Not just the date, they forgot entirely. But 3 days later, they threw a surprise party for Trevor's promotion, catered at my restaurant, using my staff, with my food. When I mentioned feeling overlooked, Jason laughed. "You're being dramatic, old man." Caroline added, "Dad's getting sensitive in his old age." No apology, no acknowledgement of the hurt they'd caused. I ignored the signs. My biggest mistake. Love makes you excuse behavior you'd never tolerate from strangers. I rationalized their coldness as stress. I justified their disrespect as generational differences. I kept believing they'd mature into gratitude. Christmas dinner would reveal their true intentions. What my children never knew was the conversation I'd had with attorney Patricia Lawson back in 2004, 2 years after Helen's death, when the business was growing fast and family dynamics felt uncertain. "Edward," Patricia had said, spreading documents across her conference table, "you need protection. Family businesses get complicated." The Bennett family trust structure was her recommendation. I'd maintain 51% controlling interest while appearing to share ownership. The children would receive generous employment contracts with executive salaries, but no actual equity. Everything legal, everything documented, everything designed to protect what I'd built. "Think of it as insurance," Patricia explained as I signed the papers. "You hope you never need it, but you'll be grateful if you do." The trust documents went into a private vault at First National. Only Patricia and I knew the details. The children believed they were accumulating ownership stakes through years of service. In reality, they remained highly paid employees with no legal claim to company assets. All bank accounts stayed under my sole signature authority. Every major contract required my approval. The termination for cause clauses were buried in fine print they never bothered reading. Insurance, I told myself. But as years passed and their entitlement grew, insurance started feeling like necessity. Their disrespect escalated while their assumption of ownership solidified. They acted like inheritors waiting for an inheritance that didn't legally exist. The trap was set. I just hoped I'd never use it. 20 years of careful legal preparation would soon prove its worth. From the outside, I looked like the perfect, generous father. Jason earned $120,000 annually as director of operations. Caroline pulled $110,000 as financial coordinator. Company credit cards covered their expenses. Luxury benefits included health insurance, retirement contributions, and annual bonuses that doubled their salaries. They lived in houses I helped them buy. They drove cars I co-signed for. Their children attended private schools I subsidized. Every major purchase involved a conversation that ended with my checkbook. Family meetings became elaborate performances where I appeared to share authority. I'd ask their opinions on expansions, menu changes, staffing decisions. They'd argue passionately, believing their input shaped company direction. But every final decision required my signature on documents they never read carefully. "Dad's really trusting us with responsibility," Caroline told Ashley one evening when they thought I couldn't hear. The pride in her voice almost broke my heart. She genuinely believed she was earning equity through participation. I maintained the illusion perfectly. Christmas bonuses, profit-sharing discussions, talks about family legacy, and passing the torch. They saw generosity where I was actually maintaining control, but their gratitude never matched their expectations. The more I gave, the more they demanded. The higher their salaries rose, the more they complained about my management style. They took credit for successes while blaming failures on my resistance to change. They lived like royalty on my foundation. And like many royalty throughout history, they eventually decided the king was expendable. They just didn't realize this particular king had spent 20 years preparing for their inevitable coup attempt. The foundation they took for granted was about to shift beneath their feet. Every December, Patricia and I reviewed the trust structure, annual updates, security improvements, legal refinements. What started as simple protection evolved into comprehensive preparation for family betrayal. Edward, Patricia warned during our 2018 meeting, their behavior is escalating. Are you ready for difficult decisions? I wasn't ready then. I still hoped love would prevail over entitlement, but I authorized the preparations anyway. Audio recording equipment, legal in our single party consent state, digital security updates, changing passwords, access codes, authorization protocols, alternative beneficiary arrangements with the Alzheimer's Research Foundation, paper trails documenting every instance of insubordination. The $2.6 million company valuation gave weight to every decision. This wasn't family drama. This was protecting a legitimate business empire from hostile takeover by people who'd never built anything themselves. Safety Deposit Box 247 at First National contained everything: trust documents, recorded conversations, termination justifications, alternative estate plans, evidence of their disrespect, their manipulation attempts, their growing campaign to undermine my authority, Caroline's whispered conversations about my declining mental state, Jason's eye rolls during staff meetings, Ashley's suggestions about nursing home care, Trevor's research into guardianship procedures, all documented, all recorded, all legally admissible. The trap was set. I just hoped I'd never use it. But hope was fading fast. Their Christmas performance would determine whether 20 years of legal preparation became necessary or remained insurance I'd never claim. Some parents worry about providing for ungrateful children. Smart parents prepare for protecting themselves from those same children. The safety net I'd woven was about to prove its worth in ways I'd never imagined. My 67th birthday arrived on March 15th. Nothing. No calls, no cards, no acknowledgement. I waited all day checking my phone, hoping someone would remember. That evening I mentioned it to Jason during our weekly manager meeting. His response cut deep. "You're being dramatic, old man. Birthdays aren't that important at your age." Caroline laughed. "Dad's getting sensitive in his old age." But 3 days later, they threw a surprise party for Trevor's promotion to regional sales manager at my restaurant, using my staff, with my food, 40 guests, full catering, open bar, the works. When I asked why Trevor's career advancement merited celebration while my birthday didn't, Ashley got defensive. "Trevor's promotion affects the whole family," she said. "Besides, you hate parties." That was news to me. I'd hosted countless celebrations over the years. The double standard stung, but their dismissal of my feelings hurt worse. No apology, no acknowledgement, no attempt at understanding, just gaslight and deflect. That was strike one. I started paying attention differently after that, watching for patterns instead of making excuses. The evidence was overwhelming once I stopped rationalizing their behavior as stress or miscommunication, but I stayed silent, still hoping. Love makes you excuse cruelty you'd never tolerate from strangers. Parental love makes you blame yourself for your children's failures. I convinced myself I was overreacting, being too sensitive, expecting too much. The birthday incident was just the beginning. Their campaign against me was systematic, coordinated, and escalating. Christmas would be the final test. June brought a more serious violation. I found the appointment card by accident, tucked in Caroline's purse when she asked me to grab her keys. Dr. Mitchell's office. Cognitive assessment written in her handwriting. Confronting her led to a family ambush I never saw coming. "We're worried about your memory, Dad," Jason said, sitting in my office with Caroline and Ashley flanking him like corporate lawyers. "You've been forgetting things." "What things?" I demanded. They exchanged glances, prepared responses. "You asked about the Henderson catering order twice last week. You called Trevor by Jason's name at dinner. You seemed confused about the quarterly reports." All lies. My memory was sharp, my cognitive function perfect. Dr. Mitchell's evaluation confirmed it. I passed every test with flying colors, but the violation cut deep. They'd scheduled medical evaluations behind my back, building a case for incompetence based on fabricated evidence. "Dad, we love you," Caroline said with practiced concern. "We just want to make sure you're okay." The manipulation was breathtaking, using medical terminology to legitimize their power grab, creating false narratives about cognitive decline, gaslighting me into questioning my own mental faculties. Dr. Mitchell's report showed perfect cognitive function, no signs of dementia, depression, or any mental health issues, but my children kept pushing the narrative anyway. Strike two. They were building a case against me. The medical manipulation revealed their true character. This wasn't concern, this was systematic preparation for a hostile takeover disguised as family care. But I stayed calm and started documenting everything. The August staff meeting happened without me. I arrived at Bennett's Kitchen downtown location to find my senior employees gathered around Jason and Caroline, listening to presentation slides about new direction for the company. The silence when I walked in was deafening. "Dad," Jason said, not missing a beat, "we were just discussing efficiency improvements." But the damage was visible. My authority had been undermined in front of people who'd worked for me for decades. Jennifer, our general manager, looked uncomfortable. Marcus, head chef, avoided eye contact. The entire dynamic had shifted. "We think you should focus more on big picture strategy," Caroline explained with false sweetness. "Let us handle day-to-day operations." Translation: step aside while we take control. The employees' discomfort was palpable. They recognized a power struggle when they saw one. Whispered conversations started that afternoon. Questions about my competence, my future with the company, whether changes were coming. "Dad needs to step back and trust the next generation," Ashley told anyone who'd listen. Trevor echoed similar sentiments about natural leadership transitions. My 40-year reputation was being systematically destroyed by people who'd built nothing themselves. Strike three, but I stayed calm. I finally saw them clearly. This wasn't generational conflict or communication breakdown. This was calculated psychological warfare designed to push me aside so they could claim ownership of something they'd never earned. Christmas dinner would reveal their true intentions, and my response would reveal the true ownership structure they'd never bothered to understand. Sitting in my home office that August evening, I documented the pattern in a private journal. Birthday dismissal, medical manipulation, staff meeting coup. 3 escalating attacks on my authority and competence. This wasn't accidental disrespect. This was systematic preparation for a hostile takeover. The coordination was obvious once I stopped making excuses. Jason and Caroline always supported each other's criticisms. Ashley and Trevor echoed their concerns with suspicious consistency. Even the grandchildren, Emma and Tyler, had grown distant, coached to see Grandpa as declining and incompetent. Every family gathering included subtle comments about my age, my memory, my old-fashioned thinking. Every business meeting featured challenges to my authority, disguised as helpful suggestions. Every decision I made got second-guessed publicly. They were isolating me professionally and personally, creating narratives that justified their eventual coup. But they'd made one critical mistake. They assumed I was passive, that age had made me weak and inattentive. They believed their own propaganda about my declining faculties. I was 70 years old, not dead, and 40 years of building businesses had taught me to recognize predatory behavior. The pattern was clear. The timeline was accelerating. Christmas would be the final test, their moment of truth and mine. If they showed respect and gratitude, I'd forget everything. If they continued their campaign, I'd activate 20 years of legal preparation. Christmas dinner would reveal their true intentions, and my response would teach them the most expensive lesson of their entitled lives. Christmas Eve morning, I arrived at Bennett's Kitchen flagship location at 6 a.m., 2 hours before opening, 3 hours before my family was scheduled to arrive for our traditional holiday dinner. I wanted everything perfect. Maybe Christmas spirit would restore what we'd lost as a family. Helen's apple pie recipe, made from scratch. Her favorite garland draped around the dining room. Family photos arranged on the mantel. Happier times when love wasn't conditional and respect flowed naturally. The staff noticed my extra effort. Jennifer commented on the special decorations. Marcus helped me prepare Helen's famous prime rib, seasoned exactly how she'd taught me 30 years ago. Mr. Bennet, Jennifer said quietly, you seem really excited about tonight. I was. Despite everything, I hoped Christmas magic might remind my children why family matters. Maybe surrounded by the restaurant we'd built together, they'd remember the sacrifices and appreciate the legacy. Customers started arriving at 8. Regular families celebrating traditions, children excited about presents, grandparents sharing stories. The warmth reminded me why I loved Christmas Eve service. My family arrived late, already in dismissive moods. Jason complained about the downtown parking. Caroline criticized the holiday menu selections. Ashley wondered aloud why we couldn't celebrate somewhere more modern. But I maintained hope. Christmas Eve dinner was sacred in our family. Helen had insisted on it, and I'd continued the tradition every year since her death. I should have known better. Nothing could prepare me for what came next. 7:30 p.m. The dining room buzzes with Christmas Eve energy. Families sharing stories, children laughing, the warm atmosphere I'd cultivated for 40 years. I approach our reserved table with Helen's apple pie, still warm from the oven. My chest swells with anticipation. Christmas magic, family tradition, maybe reconciliation. Old man, eat alone. Jason's voice cuts through the warm dining room like a blade. Every conversation stops. Every head turns. The pie trembles in my hands. I freeze mid-stride, 1 foot forward, reaching for my chair. The silence is deafening. Caroline stands dramatically, her voice carrying to every corner of the restaurant. We don't sit with mentally unstable people. The words hit like physical blows. My chest tightens. My vision blurs. 40 years of reputation crumbling in front of customers who've become friends. Ashley recoils theatrically, as if my presence might contaminate her. Everyone can see he's losing his mind. Trevor nods sagely, the supporting actor in their rehearsed performance. We can't be seen with someone so deteriorated. The entire family rises together. Coordinated movement, practiced precision. They relocate to a different table 15 feet away, abandoning me like I'm radioactive. I stand frozen with Helen's pie, watching my children laugh at my humiliation. Customers whisper behind hands. Staff members stare at their shoes. The Christmas Eve warmth turns arctic. My hands shake. My throat closes. My face burns with shame so intense I can barely breathe. But they weren't finished with me yet. From their new table, the performance continues. Voices raised just enough for everyone to hear. Dad's been forgetting things constantly, Caroline announces to the dining room. Her theatrical whisper reaches every ear. Early stage dementia, the doctor said. As doctor, Mitchell's report showed perfect cognitive function. But truth doesn't matter during character assassination. Trevor joins the medical evaluation. He asked me the same question 5 times last week. More fiction delivered with concerned authority. Jason adds false evidence with practiced sincerity. We're worried about customer safety. What if he makes dangerous mistakes? Ashley's dramatic whisper carries to the kitchen. The doctor recommended nursing home care, but we're trying to keep him comfortable at home. Every word calculated to destroy my reputation. Every claim designed to justify their upcoming coup. 40 years of building relationships with customers, earning trust, maintaining standards, all crumbling under fabricated medical diagnoses. Mrs. Henderson, who celebrated every Christmas Eve here for 15 years, looks at me with sudden concern. The Kowalski family exchanges worried glances. Regular customers who've known me for decades start questioning my competence. They had rehearsed this performance. The coordination, the timing, the medical terminology, all precisely choreographed to humiliate me publicly while building their case for incompetence. Using Christmas Eve tradition as their stage for maximum damage. I sit alone at the abandoned table, Helen's pie growing cold, watching them celebrate my destruction. The burning shame transforms into something harder, colder. The next day brought even worse. December 26th, 9 a.m. Emergency staff meeting, Jason announced without consulting me. I arrived to find my senior employees gathered in the private dining room, looking uncomfortable. PowerPoint presentation already loaded, corporate language masking family betrayal. We're announcing a leadership transition, Carolyn begins, standing at the head of my conference table. Dad's health issues require immediate attention. The slides detail my supposed cognitive decline, fabricated incidents, false medical claims, staged evidence of incompetence. My 40-year track record dismissed as past performance. Jason presents the ultimatum with boardroom formality. Voluntary retirement package, effective immediately. Or will be forced to contact social services for psychiatric evaluation and nursing home placement. The deadline, 48 hours. This is for your own good, Dad, Ashley adds with fake compassion. You need professional care. Trevor outlines their version of my future. Comfortable retirement, medical supervision, no business responsibilities. My employees sit in stunned silence. Jennifer looks horrified. Marcus shakes his head slightly. They recognize a corporate coup disguised as family concern. But my children mistake my silence for weakness. They assume age has made me passive, that shock has rendered me helpless. They offer me papers to sign, retirement agreements, power transfers, medical authorizations, everything prepared in advance, waiting for my broken-spirited signature. I stand slowly, meeting each pair of eyes around the table. I'll give you my answer tomorrow, I say quietly. That night, I made the call that changed everything. 20 years of legal preparation was about to pay off. 11 p.m., December 26th. Alone in my home office, surrounded by family photos that now feel like evidence of my own foolishness. Helen's picture on my desk, her final words echo, "Promise me they'll have everything we never did." I kept that promise, too well, but Helen never said I had to accept abuse in return for generosity. She never asked me to sacrifice my dignity for their ingratitude. She never demanded I tolerate disrespect disguised as care. The transformation happens slowly, then all at once. The hurt father dissolves. The protective businessman emerges. I open the locked filing cabinet. 20 years of legal preparation waiting for this moment. Trust documents, recorded conversations, termination justifications, every piece of evidence Patricia and I collected, every safety measure we implemented. My hands are steady for the first time in months. My breathing is calm. My vision is clear. The phone call to Patricia's emergency line takes 30 seconds. It's time to execute the termination clauses, I tell her answering machine. Family meeting at 8 a.m. Sleep comes easily that night. Deep, peaceful rest I haven't felt in years. No anxiety, no second guessing, no emotional turmoil. By morning, I was a completely different man. Not the hurt father begging for scraps of respect. Not the generous provider hoping gratitude might eventually appear. I was Edward Bennett, businessman, owner of a $2.6 million empire, protected by 20 years of careful legal preparation. And my ungrateful employees, who happened to be my children, were about to learn the difference between ownership and employment. 3 a.m., December 27th. The house is silent, but my mind is razor sharp. 20 years of trust documents spread across my dining room table. Every clause, every protection, every contingency, Patricia and I planned for this exact scenario. The Bennett family trust structure is more elegant than my children ever imagined. 51% controlling interest maintained through careful legal architecture. Their employment contracts, which they assumed were ownership agreements, contained termination clauses they never bothered reading. I draft a detailed plan for tomorrow's execution, step by step, document by document, the systematic dismantling of their assumptions about power and inheritance. The final letter I write isn't for them, not yet. It's for Emma and Tyler, my grandchildren. An explanation they'll understand when they're older, when their parents' manipulation can't poison their perspective. Respect is earned, not inherited, I write. What your parents forgot, you must remember. Patricia's emergency meeting is set for 8 a.m., legal documentation prepared, bank account access protocols reviewed, Charitable donation arrangements finalized. For the first time in months, I sleep peacefully. I finally knew exactly what to do. The hurt father who sat alone on Christmas Eve is gone. The businessman who built an empire from nothing is awake, alert, and ready to protect what he created. Morning brought a new Edward Bennett, one my children had never met, but would never forget. 8 a.m. sharp, Patricia's office. She's ready with coffee and the same methodical precision that built my legal protections. Edward, are you certain about this? She asks, spreading the Bennett family trust documents across her conference table. I've never been more certain about anything. We review the structure piece by piece. The trust maintains my 51% controlling interest. My children's employment contracts contain termination for cause clauses that activate for insubordination, public defamation, or creating hostile work environments. Check, check, and check. The recorded conversations provide ironclad evidence. Their Christmas Eve performance, their false medical claims, their corporate coup attempt, all documented, all legally admissible. Bank account access, Patricia confirms. All major accounts require my signature authority. They can't access operating funds without my approval. Charitable donation arrangements? 1.3 million to Alzheimer's Research Foundation. The irony will be noted by everyone who heard their false dementia claims. Patricia nods approvingly. Everything's perfectly legal. Employment termination for documented cause, charitable donation from personal assets, estate planning updates, standard business practices. The beauty of 20 years preparation is its completeness. No loopholes, no challenges, no appeals. Process. They assumed family bonds superseded legal structures. Everything was perfectly legal. Their assumption about inheritance was about to meet reality about ownership. The difference would cost them everything they'd taken for granted. Time to teach them about real ownership. 9 a.m. to noon. Methodical preparation for the most important business day of my life. First, security company changes every lock at all 8 locations. New codes for alarm systems. New access cards for authorized personnel. My children's cards are deactivated immediately. Second, bank notifications. All company credit cards frozen. All expense accounts suspended. All check writing privileges revoked except mine. Third, termination letters prepared with legal precision. Termination for cause based on documented insubordination, public defamation, and creating hostile work environments. No severance due to willful misconduct. Fourth, staff protection measures. Jennifer becomes interim operations manager. Marcus gets promoted to culinary director. Loyal employees who've watched this family drama unfold get immediate raises and security. Fifth, media strategy. Press release announcing $1.3 million donation to Alzheimer's Research Foundation. Public statement about combating age-based discrimination and false medical claims. Sixth, estate planning updates. New will removes children entirely, directs remaining assets to charitable organizations focused on elder rights and business education for disadvantaged youth. Every detail covered, no oversight, no emotion clouding business judgment. The systematic approach feels natural after 40 years of building something meaningful. This isn't revenge. It's protecting an empire from people who would destroy it through entitlement and incompetence. My phone stays silent. No second thoughts disturb the process. December 28th, Execution Day. The most expensive business lesson my children will ever receive. 9 a.m., December 28th. My children arrive for their victory lap, expecting my broken signature on retirement papers, my defeated acceptance of their coup. Instead, they find security guards. "I'm sorry, but you're not authorized for entry," the guard tells Jason at the front entrance of our flagship location. "This is ridiculous. I'm the director of operations," Jason blusters, fumbling with his deactivated keycard. "Not according to our updated access list." Caroline tries the employee entrance. Same result. Ashley attempts to use the company credit card for coffee at the shop next door. Declined. Trevor's corporate phone line goes straight to disconnected message. The panic starts small. Confused calls to each other, frustrated attempts to reach me. Then reality sets in. Every access point blocked, every financial tool deactivated, every symbol of their assumed authority gone. By 10 a.m., they're gathered on the sidewalk like protesters outside their own workplace. Employees arrive for shifts, watching the family drama unfold publicly. The irony is perfect. They who humiliated me publicly are now experiencing their own public embarrassment. Jennifer unlocks the front door, nods politely to the security guards, and ignores my children completely. The message is clear. Business continues, just without them. This was just the beginning. Their phones buzz simultaneously at 10:30. Certified mail notification. Legal documents requiring signature. The termination letters were on their way. 10:45 a.m. Certified mail delivery on the sidewalk, because they can't access the building to receive correspondence normally. 4 identical envelopes. Official letterhead. Legal terminology that cuts through emotion with surgical precision. Notice of termination for cause, effective immediately upon receipt. The documentation's comprehensive. Specific incidents, dates, witnesses. Christmas Eve public defamation, false medical claims, unauthorized staff meetings, insubordination clearly defined and legally substantiated. Audio evidence attached, their own words condemning them. Old man, eat alone, mentally unstable, early stage dementia. Every lie, every humiliation, every act of disrespect recorded and timestamped. Termination for cause eliminates severance considerations, the letter explains in corporate language. Personal belongings may be retrieved within 24 hours under security supervision. Combined annual salaries, $230,000. Benefit packages, $45,000. Total immediate financial impact, $275,000 per year. Gone instantly. Caroline reads her letter twice, hands shaking. Jason stares at the legal justification, recognizing his own behavior reflected back. Ashley looks confused. She genuinely believed family status protected her from employment consequences. Trevor understands immediately. This is business, not family, he tells the others. We just got fired. The corporate language strips away all emotional manipulation. No family guilt, no parental obligation, no traditional reconciliation expectations. Just employer-employee relationship terminated for documented cause. But the biggest shock was still coming. They assumed termination was the worst punishment possible. They had no idea about the trust structure that governed their entire understanding of ownership and inheritance. Noon, emergency call to Morrison and Associates, the family law firm they'd consulted for their guardianship research. We need to challenge Dad's termination decision, Caroline explains breathlessly. We own significant equity in Bennett's kitchen. He can't just fire us without buyout considerations. 30 minutes later, attorney David Morrison delivers news that shatters their reality. You don't own any equity, he explains with professional sympathy. The Bennett Family Trust maintains 51% controlling interest in your father's name. You were employees, not partners. Silence. Then frantic questions. But we worked there for 15 years. Employment, not ownership. We helped build the business, for which you received compensation exceeding local market rates. What about inheritance, legacy, family business succession? The trust structure allows for discretionary distribution. Your father has sole authority over beneficiary designations. The revelation destroys everything they believed about their financial future. For 20 years, they assumed equity accumulation. They made financial decisions based on anticipated inheritance. They leveraged their ownership for loans, mortgages, credit extensions, all built on false premises. Edward Bennett didn't just fire his children. He revealed their entire adult identity was built on misunderstanding. They were never owners, never partners, never inheritors. Just well-paid employees who confused generosity with ownership rights. Legal review shows no grounds for challenge. Everything documented, everything legitimate, everything prepared with 20 years of professional expertise. Complete powerlessness in the face of legal structure. The charity donation was announced that afternoon. 2 p.m. press release distributed to all local media outlets. Bennett's Kitchen announces $1.3 million donation to Alzheimer's Research Foundation. The timing is perfect. The irony is devastating. Local businessman Edward Bennett, founder and owner of Bennett's Kitchen restaurant chain, today announced a major charitable contribution to combat Alzheimer's disease and age-related discrimination. My public statement includes pointed references. This donation honors all individuals facing false claims about cognitive decline and supports research into the cruel disease that affects so many families. The community response is immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Local news interviews longtime customers who praise my generosity. Business leaders commend my philanthropy. Social media explodes with appreciation for supporting elder rights. Meanwhile, my children's false medical claims are exposed publicly. Everyone who heard their Christmas Eve performance about my dementia now sees $1.3 million donated specifically to Alzheimer's research. The contradiction is impossible to ignore. If Edward Bennett has cognitive issues, one customer posts on Facebook, then I hope I decline that gracefully. This donation shows sharp thinking and generous heart. The Kowalski family, who witnessed the Christmas Eve humiliation, publicly apologizes for believing the children's medical lies. Mrs. Henderson writes a letter to the newspaper, praising my clear mind and caring character. Community reputation not just restored, enhanced. The generous philanthropist image contrasts sharply with ungrateful children who made false medical claims for personal gain. The community finally saw the truth. Public vindication feels better than private revenge. Their lies are exposed, my character is celebrated, and Alzheimer's research benefits from their cruelty. But I wasn't finished yet. 3 p.m. Returning to the flagship location feels like coming home after a long, difficult journey. Mr. Bennett, Jennifer approaches with obvious relief. We need to talk. And the conference room fills with senior staff, managers, head chefs, supervisors who've worked for me for years. Their expressions mix concern with something I haven't seen in months. Respect. Sir, Marcus begins carefully, we've been worried about the family situation. Your children, they made working here very uncomfortable. The stories pour out. Jason's condescending treatment of kitchen staff, Caroline's dismissive attitude toward front-of-house employees, Ashley's unreasonable demands for personal favors, Trevor's interference with scheduling and operations. They acted like they owned the place, Jennifer says, but not in a good way, like entitled customers who think money gives them the right to be rude. We kept quiet out of respect for you, Marcus adds, but their behavior was affecting morale. People were talking about quitting. The validation hits deeper than I expected. My loyal employees, the people who actually build success through daily effort, preferred my leadership style. They witnessed the disrespect and sided with experience over entitlement. The atmosphere is completely different today, Jennifer observes. Everyone seems relieved. We can focus on serving customers instead of managing family drama. Even customers notice the difference. Several mention the improved service energy, the relaxed staff interactions, the return to the warm hospitality that built our reputation. Even the customers notice the difference. Professional vindication accompanies personal justice. The people who matter, employees and customers, support the decisions that protect what we've built together. Time for the final step. 5 p.m. The comprehensive disconnection begins. Phone company first. New number, unlisted, shared only with Patricia and essential business contacts. 20 years of family calls end with a simple service change. Bank next. Emergency contacts updated. Insurance beneficiaries changed. Credit authorizations revoked. Every financial connection severed cleanly. Safe deposit box visit. Personal documents, photos, memorabilia from their houses collected over the years. Everything returned to my possession. No sentimental items remain in their homes to create future contact opportunities. Real estate lawyer updates property documents. They're removed from all emergency contacts. Utility authorizations, medical directives. Clean legal separation from people who proved unworthy of trust. Most importantly, new will execution. Patricia's office, 5 witnesses, ironclad documentation, Bennett's kitchen, and all personal assets directed to charitable organizations focused on elder rights, small business education, and supporting respectful young entrepreneurs. They're completely removed from inheritance, not out of spite, but out of logic. They proved beyond doubt their relationship with money and authority. Giving them wealth would only enable more entitled behavior toward other people. The Edwards Bennett they humiliated on Christmas Eve is gone. The businessman who protects what he has built is the only identity that remains. No obligations, no expectations, no hope for reconciliation. Complete legal and financial disconnection achieved. Freedom feels lighter than I expected. No more walking on eggshells, no more accepting disrespect, no more wondering when the next attack might come. They would learn what they had lost. But first, they had to understand how much their assumptions had cost them. January 15th. Moving day arrives like spring after a harsh winter. Coastal Maine, 200 miles from the scene of 40 years building and 20 years preparation. A small apartment overlooking Penobscot Bay, where lobster boats work in rhythm with tides that care nothing for human drama. Simple furniture, meaningful books, photos of Helen, and happier times. No corporate reports, no family stress, no phone calls demanding money or attention or forgiveness I don't owe. Morning walks along rocky shores clear my mind like meditation. Evening reads in the comfortable chair Helen would approve of. Volunteer work at the senior center, where people appreciate wisdom instead of dismissing it as outdated thinking. The community here operates on respect and genuine contribution. Mary Thompson, a widow who runs the local bookstore, invites me to join their monthly discussion group. Frank Crawford, retired lobsterman, teaches me about reading weather patterns and understanding natural rhythms. These people judge character, not bank accounts. They value experience, not position. They offer friendship based on mutual appreciation, not financial manipulation. No one here knows about Bennett's kitchen or family betrayal or legal preparations. They know Edward Bennett, the neighbor, the volunteer, the man who listens well and offers thoughtful advice when asked. For the first time in years, I exist as myself, instead of as someone's source of money, position, or inherited authority. I found peace I hadn't felt in years. Simple pleasures taste sweeter than complex success. Honest relationships feel stronger than family bonds, built on expectation rather than affection. The phone stays silent by choice, not isolation. Meanwhile, back home, reality was setting in. February brings unexpected gifts. The book club welcomes my business experience when we discuss economic themes. The hiking group appreciates my steady pace and willingness to help others navigate challenging trails. Young entrepreneurs seek my guidance, respectfully, gratefully, without assumptions about what I owe them. Teaching business fundamentals to people who earn advice through character and effort feels profoundly different from explaining basics to entitled children who demanded wealth without wisdom. Mr. Bennett, asks Sarah, a 25-year-old who's launching a catering business, how do you maintain quality during rapid growth? Her genuine interest and thoughtful questions remind me why I loved building Bennett's kitchen in the first place. Sharing knowledge with appreciative recipients restores purpose that family exploitation had stolen. Mary Thompson and I developed something I'd forgotten was possible. Adult friendship based on mutual respect and shared interests. She values my perspective on local business development. I appreciate her insights about community building and cultural preservation. No romantic pressure, no financial complications, just two people who enjoy each other's company and conversation. The contrast with my former life is stark. Here, my age represents wisdom rather than obstacle. My experience generates respect rather than resentment. My generosity is appreciated rather than expected. I remembered who I used to be. Before Christmas Eve humiliation, before legal warfare, before choosing business protection over family loyalty, I was someone who built meaningful things and shared knowledge generously with grateful recipients. That person still exists. He just needed distance from people who saw him as an ATM with inconvenient opinions about respect and gratitude. The real Edward Bennett thrives when surrounded by character instead of entitlement. But the phone calls started that evening. March 1st, 47 missed calls in one day. Voicemails ranging from angry to pleading to desperate bargaining. Jason's progression tells the complete story. Morning. Dad, this is ridiculous. Call me back. Noon. We need to discuss this situation rationally. Evening. Please, I'm losing my house. Emma needs her college fund. Caroline's messages reveal financial panic. The cars were repossessed. Ashley's credit cards are maxed. We can't make mortgage payments. You're destroying your grandchildren's future. But their assumptions about manipulation remain unchanged. They believe financial pressure will force reconciliation. They expect parental guilt to overcome business logic. Email campaigns follow voicemail failures. Subject lines: evolution, family emergency, becomes please respond, becomes children need help, becomes we're desperate. The content reveals their true priorities. Money first, relationships nowhere. Not one message acknowledges their Christmas Eve behavior. Not one word apologizes for false medical claims or public humiliation. Instead, justifications, excuses, blame shifting. We were just worried about your health. You misunderstood our intentions. Family counseling could fix this misunderstanding. Private investigators followed digital failure. Patricia calls with amusement. Someone's trying to serve you papers for a competency hearing. I explained you're not available for frivolous litigation. Their legal consultation produces nothing actionable. 20 years of careful preparation leaves no vulnerabilities, no challenges, no appeals process. Growing financial pressure becomes obvious through increasing desperation. High-end lifestyle meeting, immediate income loss creates predictable panic. But panic doesn't create character. Desperation doesn't generate respect. Financial consequences don't automatically produce emotional growth. Their contact attempts prove the essential problem remains unchanged. They want my money, not my forgiveness. They need my resources, not my relationship. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. By April, the consequences cascade exactly as predicted. Jason's mortgage defaults within 60 days. The house Helen and I helped him buy gets foreclosure notices. His BMW gets repossessed from the driveway while neighbors watch. The humiliation is public, immediate, and entirely self-inflicted. Caroline's lifestyle collapses faster. Credit cards maxed out during the gap between employment loss and reality acceptance. The luxury items purchased with assumed future inheritance, gone. Jewelry sold, furniture auctioned, the boat Trevor insisted they needed, repossessed. Ashley discovers that marriage to entitled people becomes complicated when entitlement meets consequences. Her complaints about downgrading their lifestyle create marital tension that therapy can't solve. Trevor's investment in the children's success story backfires spectacularly. He co-signed loans based on their anticipated inheritance. He made financial commitments assuming family wealth would cover shortfalls. Within 6 months, they're forced to sell homes and downsize dramatically. Upper middle class comfort becomes lower middle class struggle overnight. The financial shock is psychological as much as practical. They'd built entire identities around assumed wealth, anticipated inheritance, guaranteed financial security. Without those foundations, who are they? They never learned to live within their actual means because they never understood the difference between their earnings and my generosity. The lifestyle they considered normal was always subsidized by my success. They never learned to live within their means. Reality education's expensive when delayed until adulthood. Financial literacy courses would have cost hundreds. This education costs hundreds of thousands. But money wasn't their biggest problem. The community that witnessed their Christmas Eve performance was drawing its own conclusions about character, respect, and consequences. The local business community renders swift judgment. Networking events become uncomfortable for my former children as potential partners distance themselves from people who publicly humiliated a respected businessman. Customer stories multiply throughout the region. The Henderson family shares details about Caroline's rude treatment during catering consultations. The Kowalskis describe Jason's condescending attitude toward their anniversary celebration. We always wondered why such a nice man had such unpleasant children, Mrs. Henderson tells anyone who'll listen. Now we understand. He spoiled them beyond character. School parent networks prove especially harsh. Ashley and Trevor discover that their children's social standing suffers when parents judge family behavior. Playdates decrease, birthday party invitations stop coming, social isolation increases. Professional networking contacts abandon them systematically. Trevor's insurance clients switch to competitors when word spreads about his family's treatment of elderly relatives. Caroline's accounting prospects evaporate when business owners question her character judgment. Most painfully, Emma and Tyler begin asking difficult questions their parents can't answer honestly. Why did you say Grandpa was crazy when he donated money to charity? Why can't we visit Grandpa anymore? Did you really make him eat alone on Christmas? Teenage wisdom cuts through adult rationalization with uncomfortable precision. Extended family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, quietly take sides. Christmas invitations get rescinded. Family reunion planning excludes them. The broader Bennett family network chooses respect over genetics. The whole town was talking. Small communities remember disrespect longer than urban areas forget scandal. Their behavior becomes local legend, cautionary tale, example of how not to treat family elders. Social rehabilitation would take years, assuming character change preceded community forgiveness. Their children were asking difficult questions. Financial stress reveals character flaws that prosperity had hidden. Marriages built on assumed wealth crumble when reality demands actual partnership. Trevor blames Ashley for supporting the family's disrespect campaign. You encourage their attitude toward your father, he accuses, during increasingly frequent arguments. Now look where we are. Ashley deflects responsibility back to Carolyn and Jason. They led this whole thing. I just went along to avoid conflict. The siblings turn on each other with predictable venom. Jason claims Caroline's medical manipulation plan was too extreme. Caroline insists Jason's Christmas Eve performance was unnecessarily cruel. Neither accepts responsibility for coordinated character assassination. Emma and Tyler, now 16 and 14, request to live with other relatives rather than endure the constant tension at home. Their shame about their parents' behavior affects school performance, social relationships, and emotional development. We don't want to be associated with people who treat Grandpa that way, Emma explains to the family court counselor during custody mediation. Teen wisdom outpacing adult character. Marriage counseling reveals deeper problems than financial stress. The entitled attitudes that destroyed their relationship with me poison their marriages to each other. Therapists encounter people who've never learned accountability, never developed empathy, never understood consequences. Professional help can't fix character defects that took decades to develop and months to expose. Extended family members, my siblings, Helen's relatives, longtime family friends, quietly support my decisions while avoiding my children's drama. Christmas gatherings, family reunions, traditional celebrations continue without them. They were destroying each other. The unity they'd shown during their campaign against me evaporates under pressure, revealing the fundamental selfishness that drove their behavior. One final attempt to reach me. June brings their last-ditch effort. Professional mediation through family reconciliation services. The mediator, Dr. Linda Foster, contacts Patricia with official-sounding requests for family healing dialogue and restorative communication sessions. Their strategy is transparent. Use professional authority to appear reasonable while continuing manipulation through different channels. They claim this is all a misunderstanding, Dr. Foster explains during her introductory call. They want to work things out and restore family relationships. The mediator describes their presentation: promises of respect, claims of changed behavior, assurances about future gratitude, standard manipulation disguised as growth. But their desperation shows through practiced apologies. Financial pressure drives fake remorse, not genuine character development. They need my money, not my forgiveness. The ultimate manipulation attempt involves Emma and Tyler. The grandchildren miss you terribly, Dr. Foster relays. They want family unity restored for their emotional well-being. Using children as emotional leverage reveals their unchanged character. Genuine remorse doesn't include strategic emotional blackmail. My response through Patricia is firm and final. Mr. Bennett appreciates Dr. Foster's professional efforts, but some family relationships can't be mediated. His children chose their path on Christmas Eve. He's chosen his response through legal channels. No further communications desired or beneficial. The mediation attempt collapses within 24 hours. They expected parental weakness to override business logic. They assumed guilt would defeat boundaries. They were wrong. Professional mediation works when both parties want relationship repair. It fails when one party wants money and the other wants respect. But some lessons come too late. December 24th, 1 year later. Christmas Eve again, but different. The letter arrives by certified mail at their various addresses. Identical copies, precisely timed to reach them during their second Christmas without family, without money, without dignity. The envelope bears simple return address: E. Bennett, Coastal Maine. Inside, 2 pages of carefully chosen words: Jason, Caroline, Ashley, and Trevor. 1 year ago today, you chose to publicly humiliate me in front of customers, employees, and community members who respect our family's legacy. You declared me mentally unstable, forced me to eat alone, and announced plans to seize control of the business I spent 40 years building. Your behavior wasn't accidental, anger or momentary disrespect. It was calculated psychological warfare designed to justify stealing something you never earned. I want you to understand exactly what your choices cost. You lost $230,000 in combined annual salaries. You lost comprehensive benefits worth $45,000 yearly. You lost anticipated inheritance currently valued at $2.6 million. Most importantly, you lost the respect of everyone who witnessed your cruelty. But I want you to know something else. I'm not angry anymore. I'm disappointed, but not surprised. Character reveals itself under pressure, and Christmas Eve revealed yours completely. The money you'll never recover, the opportunities you'll never regain, the relationships you'll never rebuild. These are consequences, not punishments. Natural results of choices you made freely. Respect is earned, not inherited. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some lessons come too late. Some choices can't be undone. This is my final communication with you, Edward Bennett. The final line changed everything. 2 years later, my life continues exactly as I choose it. Mary and I share quiet dinners and thoughtful conversation. The book club challenges my thinking without challenging my dignity. Young entrepreneurs seek advice respectfully, implement suggestions gratefully, and build businesses that serve their communities positively. No regrets disturb my peaceful mornings. No family drama interrupts my productive days. No financial manipulation attempts poison my generous impulses. The Bennett's kitchen empire thrives under Jennifer's management and Marcus's culinary leadership. Employees who stayed loyal receive profit-sharing bonuses. Customers enjoy the return to genuine hospitality that made us successful originally. My children live their reduced circumstances 3 hours south, but their choices no longer affect my daily happiness. Distance creates perspective that proximity never allowed. Emma and Tyler, now 18 and 16, occasionally send cards. Respectful communication that acknowledges past mistakes without demanding forgiveness. They understand the difference between love and accountability. They're learning what their parents never mastered. Respect must be earned through character, not inherited through genetics. The coastal mornings remind me that dignity has value beyond money, that peace exceeds profit, that character matters more than family obligation. Some relationships build you up, others tear you down. Wisdom lies in recognizing the difference before damage becomes irreversible. Family should lift you higher, not pull you down. When it doesn't, distance becomes kindness to yourself. Respect is earned, not inherited. That's the lesson I learned and the legacy I'll leave. What would you do if your own children treated you this way? Let me know in the comments. Because what I did shocked everyone who thought family bonds trumped business logic. Subscribe for more quiet justice stories and check out my playlist on family betrayal. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the most valuable ones. Until next time, remember, respect is earned, not inherited.